So I just finished doing all that cool work with the lift and the suspension and everything on the back of the Odyssey, and of course it immediately goes ahead and develops a severe misfire. Typically with these old 3 billion mile Hondas, I've learned to go ahead and replace whichever coil pack. If it's a hard miss on a particular cylinder, I go ahead and replace that coil pack. That didn't fix it, so I pulled the spark plug. That didn't look bad. Checked the valves, they were adjusted a little tight. And the intake was full of so much crap. And these little valleys that are part of the EGR system, I think, were just nasty. So I cleaned those out, replaced the EGR valve, and I mean, they were caked. So I had to scrape all that crud out of there. You look back in there, you can see all kinds of crud, junk, filth, nastiness. I actually pulled this intake plenum, and you can see the valves. And I checked the fuel injector because I thought that might be it. Swapped it with a different fuel injector. Still got a misfire on number 1 cylinder. So I did a compression check, and our compression is miserable. It's about 50 PSI, which isn't even enough to make detonation. Now I've got the coil pack out, got the spark plug pulled out, and what I'm doing is injecting air into this. So here we are at the tailpipe, and I'm going to set this little piece of paper right inside the tailpipe. Now, as you can see, it regularly blows this piece of paper out of the tailpipe. So my blow-by is coming off of that exhaust valve. That's good news. If it was a burnt piston ring, I was probably going to scrap the car, get something else, because I just don't feel like tearing the motor down that far enough to put in a piston ring. So if the problem's just a burnt exhaust valve, why can't I just go to the junkyard and grab an entirely new rear bank head, or at least a junkyard one, check it out, make sure all its valves are good, and then swap the head? Why not? Beastie Boys! Anyway, headed to the junkyard, see if I can find a head for the Odyssey. Driving the Element today. The Element's doing really well these days. I think that axle I put in is making all that noise. Not 100% sure. It's either the axle or a wheel bearing going out or something. I don't know. Something in the front end is making all kinds of racket. But let's see if we can find a head and fix the Odyssey. Junkyard time! Woohoo! Well, we come right across some deja vu. 2004. It's been sitting with flat tires for a long time. So, let's see if we can figure out if we've got a good head on here or not. Ooh, it's got the Odyssey headphones. Wow. DVD player and whatnot. Ooh, so she's been sitting for a long time. Somebody was working on it and had the power steering pump's missing. I guess the power steering went out. Well, that might save me a little work. Let's start tearing this thing down. So the great thing about junkyard cars is you can just start tearing stuff out. You don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to go back in. It's not my car. 10 millimeter. You gotta keep your eyes open at the junkyard, because this one wasn't even listed yet. It just got put in this morning, I imagine. Here's the cover. Gotta pull the intake plenum. This thing has a massive intake plenum, and I'm kind of curious to see whether or not the inside of this is as nasty as mine was. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, see that black crud? That's pretty bad. It's 100% blocked in some places. Mine was worse, if you can believe it. Much worse. these end passages were completely choked up. Those are all 10 millimeter. These are all 12 millimeter. The top part of the plenum's off. Pull off these spacers. Tackle the valve cover. Gonna have to get some new head bolts. The head bolts on these are not reusable unless they are the 12-point kind. I've been told the 12-point kind can be reused. I'm glad they're not the 12-bolt kind because I did not bring a 12-point socket. And that would have ended this trip a bit early. So the junkyard trip was a wash, literally. In the middle of trying to film that and get that head off, I realized that I had not brought one of the sockets that I was going to need, one, and two, the bottom fell out and it started to rain like there was never going to end. So I left. I went to work and I got looking things up online, and this is what I found. This was kind of a game changer. This is a brand new Honda OEM head, not rebuilt, brand new. I got it on eBay for like $350. So I thought, you know what? I'll go ahead and go with that. Got a new head gasket, new intake gaskets, new exhaust gaskets, all that fun stuff. New water pump, cheesy frame oil filter, just to change that out. New head bolts, because head bolts really are not considered to be reusable. You can measure them, and if they haven't stretched out, you can reuse them, but what the hell? I don't really want to do this but once, so let's do it once. The head I'm gonna have to replace is back there on the back side. So while I'm at it, I'm gonna go ahead, pull these timing covers and change the timing belt and the water pump. It's gonna be great. So let's start by pulling this massive plenum. And I'll show you all a new tool I bought. If you can get your hand back there, you can get this ratchet back there. It's like $29 at Harbor Freight. Cheap, cheesy junk. So let's take this cover off the plenum. Still fairly clean from the last time I did it. This gasket is probably, I mean, I've been reusing it, but it's got a little crud etched away in some of the spots. So I bought a new one. I don't know if I'll need it. These are 12 millimeters that hold the actual plenum on. For these, I'm gonna get the heavy hitter, another Harbor Freight tool. This is the Earthquake Extreme. But remember that your impact has power settings. I've turned this down as low as it'll go. And now we fast forward a little bit. I got the valve cover off, got the intake off. Most of it anyway. Still got the down pipes. Got the timing cover off. Got her set to top dead center, which is, see the little one on that cam? It's this mark up here. Needs to be lined up with that mark down there. But that's kind of it for today. Had to take the power steering loose and the power steering reservoir, which is tucked back in the corner there. I'm gonna go ahead and get a new alternator belt, because that one is crusty, and since I've got to take this motor mount off to do all this anyway, that motor mount, I might as well do it because the motor mount has to come off to take the alternator belt, to change the alternator belt. So we will do that. It's gonna be great. Spent a couple more hours out here today. Got the timing belt off. Got the harmonic balancer off. This great big socket makes light work of that, by the way. The head bolts on this thing are so tight that my big impact won't even break them loose. So I had to get the big breaker bar on it. Took me forever to get the exhaust manifold off. Finally got that off. Intake manifolds off. Still a couple things holding the the head on that I've got to get off. And once I get done with that, I'll pull the head, start putting the new head back in, which is in the back of the Element. Oh, it's pretty. Pretty. There's all those VTEC cam rockers. Okay, we'll see it again tomorrow. So I got the head off, and if it seems like I'm taking forever, it's because I'm only getting to work on this maybe 2 hours a day. And so I work on it a little bit, and then I have to go to work at night, and then I work on it a little bit more. Hey, look, that motor mount's blown to pieces. Maybe I'll put a motor mount in it while I got all this apart. So here's what the head looks like when it's out. Of course, it looks a lot like the other one that's in the back of the Element. Flip it over. Those are good valves. Those are okay valves. See what's missing here? There's actually a chunk missing out of this valve. What happened to it? I have no idea. But it doesn't look good. Anyway, this head is probably completely rebuildable. But since I found that other head so cheap on eBay, we're just gonna swap one in. I do have to get this cam gear off and this back timing cover. Turn that down a little bit. Let's see if we can start low. Yeah. 12mm on the air ratchet. Let's try that. Old reliable Ingersoll ram. There's that. I want to make sure all my plugs are correct. Everything looks right. I want to move this over here while I've got this apart. In my haste, I ripped this connector off, so I'll have to reconnect that or solder it or something. I don't know. Where'd that go? Right here? On. It's weird. It's got this little built-in like Woodruff key. It's made into it, I think. I don't think it can even come out. There's that. Being that this is a Honda factory part built in Alabama. There's the part number, there's the date, built in 2005. And that is a 2004 Honda Odyssey. It's got these little keepers on it. I was kind of wondering, it being a factory part, if it maybe came with the valve adjustments already in. But those little keepers are there to tell you that these are not adjusted and not tight. So we will have to do a valve adjustment. I mean, that's no big deal. I just was kind of curious as to whether or not a factory installed head would need that. But let's make sure we take these out. So that's kind of it for today. I think I'll go ahead and upload this video. The rest of this is going to be cleaning. I may order a motor mount for back there, and then the next video is going to be reassembling this thing and seeing if I wasted my time or not. I really hope I don't, because I like this old van. I probably could have replaced it for a couple $1,000s, but I don't know. You know me, I like old junk. Besides, at some point it becomes a challenge. Can I do it? Can I keep it going? I don't know. My truck's getting to the point where I'm probably just gonna sell it on to the next guy that wants a project. But this old van, a lot of people count on it, so might as well keep it going. Until next time. time, this is Clint Searcy saying, like and subscribe to Scavenger Type.